Hey, Josh, nice comment. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Glad everyone's able to connect. My name is Brandy Beals. I help to lead the Wisconsin Virtual Tableau User Group. This is our second ever meeting and our first one of 2020, so welcome. Sounds like everyone, or it looks like everyone's able to get connected just fine, so that's fantastic. I'm going to kick things off in just a few more minutes. I'm going to wait until about 12:05, just because if people are like me, they're running a little bit late. We will be using the Q&A window during our panel. So if you guys have questions, you want to ask our panelists, you may want to identify where that Q&A panel is. At least for me, there's like a black bar across the top of the screen. Potentially could be hidden, and it'll drop down and there'll be a Q&A section. That is different than the chat window, just as an FYI. So we're going to be taking questions for our panelists in the Q&A window. So keep an eye out there. But welcome, everyone. All right, so I think we've kind of plateaued in terms of our attendees, so it looks like we have quite a good group here. I'm going to just kick things off. You should see my slide deck up. So welcome to the first ever, or the first not ever, first of 2020 Wisconsin Virtual Tableau User Group. We are 255 days away from Tableau Conference 2020 in Las Vegas. So fun fact, I guess, 255 days if you're counting down. Just so everyone is aware, at the end of our meetings, we give away swag, some free stuff that you could win, and you can win in one of two ways. You can either ask a question during our panel, again, using that Q&A window, or tweeting with the hashtag WITUG. So I'm hoping everyone can hear me just fine and see my screen, but we're gonna jump right into today's agenda. Which is pretty packed. We are gonna kind of pick it off, which we're in that process now. I like to do an audience profile because this is a user group. It certainly can be difficult when we're all separated geographically, but we like to get to know each other as best we can. So in just a minute, I'm gonna ask you guys a few questions. Hopefully you guys will participate. And then we're going to get into our Women in Data panel discussion, which will then be followed by a dashboard of a demo of a Tableau dashboard by Crystal. And then Alex is going to speak about storytelling with data's community. And then we're going to wrap up with some free giveaways and just other ways to keep in contact with us. So again, don't forget to win that swag, WITUG, in a tweet or ask a question during our panel. So hopefully everyone is as excited as I am. But yeah, like I said, we're going to get right into our audience profile. So I like to do this Q&A to get to know you a little bit better. So what I'm actually going to do in the chat window, which is different than the Q&A window, I just shared the link, so you don't have to try and type in these letters that make no sense. And when you do that, when you go to this URL, at least initially, you're just going to say that I haven't started the poll yet. But in a second, I'm going to turn on that poll and you're going to be presented with the first question. So hopefully that all makes sense. And I'm going to kick it off now. So you should see your first question in this poll, which is what role most closely aligns with your role in your organization? So just kind of get a sense of who we've got on the call. We obviously have a lot of analysts and developers, people who work with Tableau directly. on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully, you're probably going to find some awesome stuff from Crystal and Alex later, but awesome, fantastic. Jacks of all trades, yes. We've got some architects, managers, directors, great, fantastic. Thank you all for participating in this. It's awesome to get to know everybody. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. So in just a second, you should see a second question appear on your screen, which is, do you have a Tableau public profile or account? Some people don't know whether they have it. Tableau Public is pretty awesome. It is free. Essentially, it's, Tableau Public, you can actually download like a version of Tableau Desktop that, can connect only to like Excel files and flat files essentially, but then you can publish out to Tableau Public, which is kind of like Tableau Server or Tableau Online, and then share your visualizations with the world. So it's really exciting. If you do have it, I'm going to ask you for a favor later on. So get ready. I know everyone's on the edge of their seats for that. So our third question, I like to throw in a random one just to learn more about everybody. So if you could travel in time, would you want to see the past or the future? I am somewhat surprised that it's a neck and neck race here. I am a future gal myself. I want to know what, flying cars look like. So awesome. Again, thank you everyone for participating in this. I always find this a lot of fun. So our next question, do you plan to hone your data viz skills in 2020? Awesome. Definitely thinking about it. Some people aren't sure. One person not interested in better data viz skills. But this is fantastic. Well, we definitely have some great content for everybody later on. Where's the I'm already totally awesome option? Yes, we should have put that one in there for sure. All right, our last question. Have you had an influential female role model in your career? Wow. Yes, took off crazy out of that gate. That's awesome. Definitely have a few no's in there. That's expected. Awesome. Well, thank you again for everyone who participated. I love learning about the group. And I feel like this is just a really cool and visual way to do so. So, awesome. All right, so that is it for our poll. We're going to jump next right into our Women in Data panel discussion. And I'm wondering if we have Patrick McCormick yet back on the line. I know he had a computer issue.
I am back on the line.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Brandy. Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed there. My laptop started to freeze up, of course, right before a webinar event like this. But so, yeah, we've got a great group here today. We're highlighting experiences by women in data. And we've got a number of women from Wisconsin, as well as Tableau EVP Jackie Yaney joining us directly from Tableau HQ in Seattle. Welcome, everyone. Well, we have some prepared questions. If you have questions for the panelists, please submit them through the Q&A channel, and Sarah Weber will be moderating those and bringing those in as time permits. So let's get started by getting to know the panelists a little bit. If you would tell us a little bit about your day job, your role in the Tableau community, and any New Year's resolutions you have for 2020. Jackie, would you get us started?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Yaney, the CMO here at Tableau. Haven't been here too long, so I joined in September. I met Patrick at TC in the hallway, so that's how we started to get to know each other. I've been doing marketing for B2B enterprise software for probably about half my career, not the entire. And New Year's resolution, you know, honestly, this hasn't been one of those years for me because I just moved from Washington, D.C. to Seattle. So I am just trying to keep it together. My youngest son is heading off to Peru on Sunday for a semester abroad, and boxes are all around. And yeah, so getting to a normal routine is my goal. But I can't really call that a resolution, I suppose.
It sounds like you've got your hands full. Brandy, tell us a little more about you.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. So I guess my day job, I'm a manager of a data analytics team, which sits in IT. So we focus a lot on self-service education and just like the technical administration of tools like Tableau. I guess my role in the Tableau community would kind of focus on, well, I think I mentioned in the beginning, I lead, in addition to this virtual user group, I lead the Milwaukee Tableau user group. So if you're ever in the Milwaukee area and you want to join us, we actually meet in person too. And just last year over the summer, I was named Tableau ambassador. So I definitely just talk a lot about Tableau, probably an annoyingly amount. In terms of New Year's resolutions, I always make them. And this year, so I'm getting my master's degree, which I'm hoping to complete this year. So that's goal number 1. And then I like to read. So 12 books is my goal this year, which I mean, isn't a lot, but they're usually like technical books. So they're hard to get through. But yeah, that would be a little bit about me.
Nice. What's the first book on your agenda, Brandy?
I'm reading a book called Machines That Think, and it's about artificial intelligence.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Joe, tell us about you.
Well, thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me. My name is Joe LeDuc. I work for the state of Wisconsin at the Office of the Commissioner of Insurance, and I spend most of my time trying to integrate analytics into our daily processes, whether it be to better identify companies insurance companies that might need a little attention or regulatory help, to back-end office, human resource planning, decision sort of analytics. So sort of a jack of all trades in terms of the spectrum of the data that I work with. I am on the leadership team for the Madison Tableau user group. And then I also head or co-chair a leadership or a TUG group for state of Wisconsin employees who are trying to really help the state of Wisconsin integrate analytics and the use of Tableau across all agencies. And I don't make New Year's resolutions because I don't keep them. So instead what I do is I sort of just like declare a theme for the year, which is pretty broad. And 2020 is the year of adventure.
Nice.
Is this the Grand Canyon adventure, or was that last year?
No, that's one of them. So I'm going to hike the Grand Canyon in November. My daughter actually just left last week for a semester abroad in Spain. So in May, we're going to go visit her in Spain. And then I have another sort of business adventure in the works for this year too. So
Good deal. And last but not least, Sam.
Hey guys, I'm Sam Stanley. I'm a quantitative data analyst for Kino Mutual Group in Madison. If you're not familiar with Kino Mutual Group, we are an insurance company, so to speak. We provide insurance products for credit unions and credit union members. I particularly support the customer implementation team and all of our kind of data initiatives that we have. So basically, our team enables the products to be sold or integrated into the credit unions. I've been using Tableau for almost 5 years. You may know me because I'm part of the Madison TUG leadership team as well, and I'm the one who sends you all of the communications. So all the emails you get, those come from myself or a couple of other people in our group. I do want to say I'm extremely excited to participate on this panel, but I do need you to know that all of the views that I express are my own and not those of Kino Mutual Group. Sorry.
Very good.
I've been there, Sam.
And I have no New Year's resolutions. I guess, so I'm working towards my private pilot's license, so actually getting to fly is usually kind of my weekly goal.
Well, thanks for taking the time to participate today, and everyone for that background. Let's continue the conversation. I'll direct a question to one of the panelists, and after that person wraps up her response, we'll open it up to the rest of the panelists for comment. Let's get started with Jackie. How did you get into data? Did you study it in school?
No, thank you for asking that. So although I am in marketing now, so I have an electrical engineering degree from a school on the East Coast called Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which sounds geeky in and of itself, and it was. It was a school. I don't think the numbers have gotten much better, which is really disheartening. But the school was like 7-to-1. Electrical engineering was 15-to-1, and then I was doing Air Force ROTC, which was 25-to-1. So then in the Air Force, I had a very data-driven job. I developed and deployed an intelligence data system that took different data source feeds, correlated that information, and then created a picture of the battlefield for the operators. So I'm proclaiming my age, but that was during Desert Storm. And then I did my business degree at MIT because I couldn't imagine doing it anywhere where analytics wasn't at the core, and considered doing a PhD, but a colonel I worked for convinced me that I was gifted at orchestrating complex activities and should look at MIT's business school. And then after that, I was at this consulting company called the Boston Consulting Group. And I used to always get this feedback that I wasn't visionary enough. I wasn't out of the box enough. And it dawned on me later, it was because I was that data engineer. I believed if I analyzed the data enough and correctly, that the answer would show itself to me. Now that I've been in marketing for several years, I realize that's not completely true. That is this wonderful combination of being data and analytical driven and having the creativity next to it to test hypotheses and things. So I am a data girl at my soul. And although my husband said we are not moving, once he realized how excited I was about Tableau, he agreed to come out here to Seattle with me. So.
Well, I'm glad he caved for sure.
Yeah, me too.
About the rest of you, did you all study data in school?
This is Brandy. I'll jump in. My undergrad was in, I really enjoyed art in high school and wanted to be an artist, but I also wanted to make money. So I double majored in art and economics, which I actually think is like oddly fitting for this career. So.
That is a nice combination.
Yeah.
Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I have a bachelor's and in business and an MBA in business, but I'm a very experienced individual. I've been in the insurance industry for going on 30 years now, so that wasn't something that was integrated into the curriculum back then. I landed in this career when the Commissioner of Insurance a few years ago asked that I take it on. And I've just been learning on the job.
Very good. Sam?
Yes and no. I have an undergrad in poli-sci and economics, and then I decided to go to grad school for applied statistics because I liked the quantitative side of poli-science, political science, and then kind of doing research to that end. I started using Tableau in grad school and just kind of gravitated towards the tool and have kind of stayed there ever since.
Good deal. I think that's somewhat of a common story that people first experience Tableau as part of higher education and then stick with it. So that's a fun story. Next question goes to Brandy. What do you see happening to encourage women to pursue careers in data?
Yeah, good question. Well, Well, I think just the fact that like we're all here right now talking about this, I think is huge. I think there's a lot of people out there thinking and talking about how to get women more involved in STEM. I also think it's really helpful to have, high profile women or just women visible in the field. I think is really helpful, and I think it encourages other women who are potentially interested in the field to like know that it's accessible, that they can see and envision themselves in that profession. So I think that part's huge. I know too, like just in Milwaukee specifically, there are there are a variety of different activities that are happening, things that are going on to encourage women to get involved. There's an organization called Girls Plus Data, and they actually focus on going into schools for like middle schoolers and focusing again on females and teaching them, an analytical mindset and how to use Tableau, and just kind of focusing in on those maybe underrepresented segments of our population. And then there's also a group called Lift Up Careers that focuses actually on women who want to re-enter technology and kind of ensuring that they have the skills necessary to re-enter, that IT space. And so I've been involved with the Girls Plus Data organization in the past, and then I'm actually helping to teach some data analytics and data engineering skills through Lift Up. So those are just two groups that I've been involved with, but I know that, they're just a representation, I think, of all of the efforts that are going on to encourage women to get involved.
That's really good.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to share kind of an aha that I had several years ago that I wish I had had before that. As I was, young and going into engineering, I genuinely thought I was going to be part of a wave that was happening. And then it turned out the wave never did. And what dawned on me was that I couldn't rely on it just happening around me, that I had to start to take a more personal responsibility. So my husband and I started a Girls in STEM scholarship. I work hard to be, a mentor to women. Anyway, it was this notion that we all have to personally take a hand in it, that we can't rely on others to make it happen.
That's a great takeaway. It's very easy to just say, "Oh, somebody else will
It's happening,
take care
right?
of that."
Yeah.
So, Brandy, back to all those opportunities you mentioned. How is there a good way for people to learn about some of those opportunities?
Oh, that's a good question. I know both organizations have websites, and they're pretty active on social media. I also just tend to be pretty involved in the Milwaukee data community just in general. So that's actually how I met the organizers of these groups. But I guess if I were somebody who were interested in getting involved, you can certainly just Google it, even if you're not in Milwaukee, right? I'm sure that there's an organization somewhere, but reach out, get involved, connect with people on social media. That's kind of just what I've done that I found to be successful. And just starting to create connections and make things happen. I mean, if there's not something going on in your city, you can be that person. I think that's one of the, concepts that I've kind of taken on, is just if I don't see that role being filled, I will fill that role. I will be the one, I'll share and I'll get out there and try to organize a group and make things happen. So, and I think anyone can do that. You don't need anyone's permission.
Yeah, back to Jackie's point, everyone needs to take personal initiative. And for those organizations that you mentioned specifically, Brandy, we hope to send a follow-up email to all the registrants, and we can include specifics around those.
Yeah.
Sam or Joe, did they miss any other opportunities that you're aware of?
No, I think my biggest takeaway is it's never too late to get involved, to be involved. we hear a lot about like, am I too old or am I too young or can I not have enough of an impact? But anything you do to help another person could even be a greater effect through them helping others. And so I just think going back to some of the comments that have already been said, really just helping people who want help and seeking out those opportunities is really a great place to start.
Yeah, and I feel like the world's a smarter place than when I was younger. But for years, I had this mentality that if I just do an excellent job, then it's all going to work out great. And what you all are talking about is I think it's really important to view that getting outside your organization walls, networking with other people, building your personal brand, that this is part of your career and your life. It's not a small add-on. It's probably the most important thing you can be thinking about and focused on.
And
Yeah.
while you've got the mic, Jackie, let's direct the next question to you. And that is, do you think it's important to have a mentor, and how did you go about finding one?
Oh, so this is a passionate topic for me. I am a huge believer in mentorship, and I would say over the years, I fundamentally have had 6 of them. 2 of them were female, 4 of them were male. But there's a couple things that bother me about the notion of mentors. One is I don't like it when people force it. So I've had so many people over the years that kind of walk in my office and say, will you be my mentor? That's not how this happens. What you really need to do is look for leaders that you respect and from afar, and you wonder kind of how they do what they do, why they do what they do. And maybe don't ask them to be a mentor if you don't know them that well. You ask them for a coffee and ask them questions and start to build a relationship. And so when I say I've had these 6 mentors, it was only kind of quote years later where you kind of look back and say that was a mentor, or he's been a mentor for me along the way, but nothing formal. So I have not had a lot of luck on either side on the formal programs of assigning mentors and mentees, or if somebody kind of walks in and just kind of asks me. I feel like if you're searching for one, just work on building a relationship with that person. And then the other thing I think to keep in mind is there's a big difference between mentors and sponsors. And I think we all need sponsors as well. And sponsors tend to actually be within your organization, but somebody more senior than you that is literally going to help lift you up and is going to have your back. Mentors are more kind of guides along the way and advice and things like that. And I would say 4 of those 6 mentors of mine were also sponsors, but not all of them. But we all need somebody to help lift us up. And then as we can lift others up around us, we should make sure we're doing that as well.
That's an interesting point about identifying mentors kind of informally or casually. And one thing that comes to mind as far as going about that is being active in the Tableau community and in your user groups. Volunteer for things, volunteer to speak. We're always looking to hear about individual stories and get involved, like a lot of these panelists have. I know for me personally, that's been a wonderful way to meet people.
Yeah, and it feels good, right? Whenever I'm feeling down, like doing something like this and connecting with people that care about the same sort of things I care about is energizing in all sorts of ways, not just productive, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win for whether you're the mentor or the mentee.
That's right.
Sam, what do you see happening to go ahead.
Oh, no. So, to kind of piggyback off that, there are so many people who want to help you succeed. And I always think it's an opportunity. Anytime you meet somebody, you can exchange little tidbits of information. You don't need to have even like a formal mentor, but there have been so many people that I've just interacted with throughout my career, intermittently or even single times, that have given me so many insights into how to be successful, little things about myself that I didn't even know. And so like in terms of what's going on like at CUNA Mutual Group and how we have like mentorship groups, we have a lot of ERGs that are established throughout our company that really just help women to try to succeed. And they're not specific to just, you know, women in our organization. You know, we welcome everybody. We want everybody to be involved. Like women's problems are not just women's problems, they're problems. But I also see groups, you know, in the broader data community, like women in analytics. I see a lot of support on social media. I know Tableau is big on Twitter. I'm not as active myself, but I still see a lot of individuals supporting each other, whether that's men supporting women, women supporting women. There's just like that community of people who are all just there to help each other succeed and to learn new things. And I personally feel like, you know, that support network in data and analytics is larger than ever, and the desire to support each other is very apparent. And I think, you know, the biggest thing is to, if you want that, go out and find it. Nobody's gonna come find you to help you. You know, you have to take that initiative on your own.
Sounds great. Let's move on to Joe for the next question, and that is, what are some of the challenges still facing women in technology?
Well, that's an excellent question. I almost feel like it's a hardball question. I really, there's so many different things depending upon, you know, who you are and where you're at in life. I think for the current workforce, especially those of us that are a little bit more experienced, the education and the lack of sort of the STEM-based education is a big hurdle. Yes, I had a statistics class in college, but I took it knowing that I would never need it again. And that turned out not to be true. So I think for those of us that are in the workforce right now, that lack of base education is a bit of a challenge, one that we have to overcome in order to really get a good handle on working with the data and doing the analytics piece of it. But I also still think that there's a fair amount of bias out there, and it's not necessarily conscious bias. A lot of it, I think, is unconscious bias. When you think of a woman in a meeting, I don't know how many times, you know, that I've sort of heard or experienced or seen it. If a woman's being assertive, not mean or anything like that, but just being assertive and speaking her mind, she's often seen as witchy or uncooperative. Whereas,
or there's another word that people often use, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is true. But I mean, and it's not necessarily a conscious thing that's going on. I think a lot of times it's just unconscious. And for us to sort of speak our mind without being perceived as being aggressive, it is sort of a tightrope that we have to walk and learn how to navigate. I think the same holds true in terms of like stereotyping it and perceptions, and, you know, an assumption that just because you're a woman, you want to stay home with the family, which is not true. I stayed home for the first 2 years of my first daughter's life, and I was going stir crazy. And after that, I went back to work, and my husband was a stay-at-home husband. But I think there still is a lot of perception that the woman wants to stay home and doesn't want a career, and that the men don't want to stay home. So I think that that's a bit of a challenge. I have seen that change a lot in the last 15 years, but I think that there's a ways to go with that still.
Very good.
Yeah.
Opening that one up to the rest of the panelists, any observations?
There's
I
just
guess,
some
you
moments
know,
where I'm like, shoot, it's 2020. Like, why is this conversation still so similar to how I felt in 1990? It's just disappointing, you know? So we got to change it.
Mm-hmm. Sam?
Yeah, I guess I really have felt pretty lucky throughout my entire, you know, grad school career into my early part of my career. The program I went to had quite a few female instructors, quite a few female students, and we always kind of gravitated towards each other. in some aspects, but I really think, changing the perception about what women's role is in terms of the traditional family structure or in the workplace, that goes to that unconscious bias that Joe was talking about, and just really trying to understand like what that means and what bias you have as an individual and how you can work to sort of change that perception. I've been called aggressive. I've been called many things. I have a tone that I kind of go into when I'm thinking very deeply in a meeting, and it's not because I'm a bitch. It's just because I want to say the right thing and not sound stupid, and I need a moment to kind of process that. So I think, a tone, a look, like a smile. I know a lot of times I hear like, oh, well, you should just smile. That's great. So should you. But, like I said, when I'm thinking, I get very, bitch face. And that's just who I am. And so understanding, we all have different appearances. We all have different things that are going on in our lives, and just being like accepting of those and understanding, I think, goes a long way as well.
Great observations. Brandy, anything you want to add?
I feel like everybody really commented and made great points. I think everybody handles it differently. I'm very direct. So if anyone were to say those things to me, I would tell them what to do with that information. So people just stop saying that stuff to me. Only call people out when they, when they make, I don't know, offhand comments or something. So everyone has their different approach.
Yeah, I do often remind myself, back to the unconscious point, that it is 99% of the time not intentional.
Yep.
And that helps me put it in a different place.
Absolutely. But I also I want to make it, I agree.
And we should still be direct on calling it out, but as far as, because I don't want to then have resentment towards that person.
No, absolutely. And I guess I just want to also help educate. So, hey, when we say key man risk, let's use key person risk, right? We're not all just relying on the men. Yeah. Or, just situations where they might not knowingly, be making their female colleagues feel a certain way. I tend to, just make mention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really hard too, because we deal with this in the workplace, but we also deal within the broader structure of society. And so even, I'm almost 30, I have a minimal desire to have children. And so how does that define me? And what biases do people think about when, they think about an unmarried female without children? And I don't allow it to hold me back, but I think it's just, this is the life that I'm choosing for certain reasons, like you've chosen your life. And, in terms of being direct with people, I think just being an ally for each other, whether it's a man being an ally for a female or a female being an ally for another female, that's really important. If you're just going to sit there and let someone say things about colleagues or friends or family that you have, and you're going to secretly think about it later and how it affected you, it's really important to just speak up and be direct and take, that stance.
Well said.
All right, so we've got about 5 minutes left for the panel discussion. Let's turn to see what questions we have from the audience. Sarah, what's top of the list?
Well, we have a lot of questions, so we won't get to all of them. But there are several under the theme of getting that base education and any tools that all of you have either experienced or used, maybe beyond free learning opportunities. And a lot of the questions are specific to Tableau. But any great resources that you found to help increase your education in data and with Tableau?
So, Sarah, this is Jo. I'll go first. Where I turned to when I first moved into this about 6 years ago was they were free platforms. I don't know if they still are because I haven't been on them for a while, but places like Coursera, FutureLearn, and edX all have excellent high quality educational opportunities about the broader analytics and data science as opposed to tool specific questions. While I'm a strong advocate for Tableau, I've always say that it's not really about the tool itself, it's about the analytics. So if someone's looking for a good base, I would recommend any one of those three or all three, and just pick and choose what courses appeal to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. You know, I'm a big proponent for different ways of learning. So, you know, Tableau obviously has all of their free online videos. Blogs are fantastic. That's what's one of the wonderful things about the Tableau community is the willingness of people to share information. So there's a lot of really good blogs out there. I think sometimes one of the things that potentially gets lost is, to your point, Joe, like the analytics, right? Tool agnostic. You know, how do you decide what that insight is and then communicate that? I think that can sometimes be a point that gets lost. And there's a lot of really good books out there. You know, Cole, who's with Storytelling with Data, she's written 2 fantastic books that can be, you know, you can use Tableau to apply her learnings or any other tool. But she talks about how to communicate that insight, right? Because that's really the goal of your data assets, is to find that key insight that you can take action on that will make an impact. So books like that. Information Dashboard Design is another good book. So I'm clearly all about books. There's a good one called The Secrets of Analytical Leaders, which focuses more on like getting executive sponsorship. Because I know that there were a few questions also in the chat about that. So Secrets of Analytical Leaders focuses on getting that executive sponsorship and then really proving the value of an analytical like endeavor. So those are some of my favorite books.
Great, and thanks for covering. That was exactly spot on for some of the other questions that have been out there. If we have time, Pat, I have 1 or 2 more that I think might resonate just based on the women in data conversation.
Yeah, let's sneak one more in.
Okay, sounds good. So this one is from Jessie, and Jessie says, on women in data, STEM and inclusion, what are your thoughts on the need for the industry to change to attract more women versus trying to attract more women to the industry as it is? I've always struggled with the make it pink and sparkly method of trying to attract women and girls to STEM. But I also acknowledge that some of that may be internalization of masculine over feminine. Any thoughts?
That's deep.
Yeah.
I like the pink sparkly attraction comment.
It gets
Yeah.
And
It kind of goes back and forth.
have
doesn't it, right?
any different ideas than kind of those? Go ahead.
I don't know. I feel like over the years I've done like this back and forth of trying to fit into the masculine world so I can, you know, get by and do okay, versus then I will pay attention to when I'm in a context where I can be myself and bring more of my feminine qualities. I never go as far as pink and sparkly, but so I don't have an answer for the overall problem. I think the lower down we get in education, I think is one of the most important, and having programs and people that support. But I think it's still going to be a while before the industry itself becomes more overall balanced with style, if you will.
Great. Pat, would you like me to sneak one more in, or do you want to move on?
Well, does anyone else have any further comments on that one? All right. So we do have 2 more awesome speakers queued up here, so we better stay on schedule. But thank you again to all the panelists in the audience. Take note of all their Twitter handles that are up on the slide deck. Make sure to follow them, and we'll continue the conversation, and everyone can take personal responsibility for making this a non-topic in the future. All right, Brandy, should we move on to the next slide?
I think that sounds fantastic.
All right, upcoming events. So we've got a jam-packed year lined up for you. All of our we're doing these virtual user groups quarterly, and that information and registration is now available for you to get on your calendars this afternoon if you haven't already. Some people have stumbled across that already. Our next virtual user group, we've got a couple of celebrity speakers queued up for that one already, and the theme there will be around Viz competitions, because right after that virtual user group, both the Madison and Milwaukee user groups will have in-person Viz competitions. And then Milwaukee, you can see Brandy's doing a bang-up job. She's got the complete year laid out. You can get all those dates on the calendar. And Madison Q1 is on the calendar as well. And we'll be following up with further URLs that you can get out there if you don't have that bookmarked already. But please do bookmark our Splash Hub pages so that you can get to that. With that, I'll turn it over to Brandy to introduce our next speaker.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, so our next speaker is Crystal Kingstad. She is a business intelligence engineer at Continuous Technologies, and she has graciously agreed to give us a demonstration of a Tableau dashboard that she put together. So I'm going to just turn it over to Crystal.
All right, hi everyone. So I'm Crystal Kingstad, again with Continuous Technologies. I'm just gonna preface this presentation with we're all like super extroverted nerds at Continuous. So like when we have time and we're not like crazy with clients and everything, we sort of build dashboards of like things we're interested and just in general like fun things that we want to analyze further. So with that said, I built,
Do I have to stop sharing in order for you
yep,
to?
I just requested from you, sorry.
Sorry. No, you're good. Again, second virtual user group ever, so still working it out, but thank you. You should be good. Oh wait, no, you're controlling my screen.
Oh, this
I'm
is
just
going
gonna
really
stop
well.
sharing. Now maybe you should be able to share.
I'm so sorry.
You're good. Just taking over the world and my computer. That's cool.
All right, you know, one thing at a time.
Right?
So this is also like almost like a shameless plug for Tableau Public too. So I made this on desktop and then I just pushed it up to my public profile because it's sort of like almost pushing it to your server if you have a server instance at your company. So this is actually on Tableau Public, which I think Brandy will be talking about right after this one, I think. But I made a visual about my last vacation to Italy. So over the holidays this year, I went to Italy and Google Maps actually, it's almost a little creepy, but like they track exactly where you go as long as you're connected to like a Wi-Fi source or if you have like data available. So I actually pulled my data down from my Google Maps and they come out in these nice like KML files that you can then sort of just join them together. It's almost like joining Excel sheets. And then you have a bunch of different locations that you have and it gives you your latitude and longitude. So you can then make a beautiful map as I have here. But this is all my personal data from my Google Maps account. So another thing too is I love a nice, simple, beautiful like visual. So I don't put a ton of information necessarily on my visuals. I like to keep it simple and clean. So two things that I'll sort of go over is on this dashboard, I utilized actions. So when you click on wherever you want to see on my timeline, starting from the beginning of my travel to the end of my travel, it then filters down my map. And then it also shows this extra information as far as how many times I was at this exact location and the total duration of the time I was there, essentially. I also have my general statistics as far as how much time I spent driving, flying, walking, and then my grand total of just sort of transportation times, almost, I would say. So we can sort of filter through, different locations and different times. I also have a density as far as how much time was spent at that location. So if I was there a long time, I have that bubble corresponding properly. And then when you don't select anything, we have the action at the bottom that shows that there's nothing selected. So one thing that I did with the map is we had different options as far as layers, and you can change the colors and you can change what else you can see on the layers. So let me see if this will pop up. So just popping into Tableau really quickly, you can see on the map. So this is just sort of like a rundown for anyone who doesn't know it already, but you can go to map and you can go to map layers, and then you can change the style of your map. So typically it comes with this light format that everyone's sort of accustomed to seeing. You can change it to dark and change the washout is what I did. So then you have it a little bit lighter and you can see those marks a little bit more clearly. Another thing that I added was, for example, if you, so there's different altitudes and different mountain ranges, everything like that sort of in Italy. So for example, I was sort of in the middle north of Italy, which is relatively flat. And then if you go up towards Switzerland, you have the Alps. So one thing that I really wanted to do was show the altitudes and sort of make sure that you can sort of see that that's mountain ranges, especially versus down by the sea, where it's not as mountainous. So that sort of gives an idea of where I was at for my vacation, maybe like an idea of probably what I saw. I probably saw some mountains compared to the beach. Anything like that. So you can sort of lend a little bit more ideas as far as what was going on there. An applicable thing that you can sort of think of that in regards to your job maybe is if you are showing like, you're mapping out like distances as far as you're sending a product to someone else, you can sort of see, well, maybe this is going to take a longer time because you're going through a mountain range. So that might be a good case why you would want to put in that terrain or coastline or anything like that. So then you can see, well, yeah, it's going to take more time to ship this product because we're going to go through the Alps and there's probably one road and it's probably really windy. So that is my maps changes. The other thing that I'll sort of go over, again, this might be like sort of obvious to some people, but just in case, you can also do those dashboard actions that I mentioned, which filters down this bottom portion. And for that, you just go to your dashboard and your actions, and you can filter on different objects essentially. So that's how you do those nice dashboard actions to define sort of which container you want to filter and what you want to see through your data. And then we also have just the general statistics as far as, I always like to define these as KPIs. So we have our driving KPIs, flying, walking. So these are all different columns, but they're from the same grouping. So the other thing too is I love like a kitschy catch line. So with my titles, I always put like some, just for my normal ones, just like a kitschy phrase. So disclaimer, I didn't actually go to Rome, but I love putting like those silly kitschy things that people probably think are weird, but I'm a big fan. And also for my data prep, you can do a lot of that in Tableau Prep actually now. I just pulled it out through Alteryx just because that's my sort of product of poison. So I like using that one more. But Tableau Prep is a good way to start prepping that data and pulling in those like KML files if you are traveling abroad or if you're just traveling in general. So the other thing that sort of I want to reiterate about this presentation is it's meant to be sort of like inspirational. So I have a lot of friends that reach out to me and they don't necessarily know like how to get started in Tableau or to like hone in different skills and like play around with different visuals, because a lot of people want bar charts or just data in the format of Excel but in Tableau. So I find that making visuals that make sense to you and sort of like you're inspired by is a really good way to start learning. And that's usually what I recommend to my friends that ask me like, how do you get started in Tableau? Like start with a source that you're passionate about and that like you know what's going on, so then you can sort of figure out what those dashboards are actually doing or what the worksheets are meant to do. Because then you can sort of figure out what direction you want to go with your overall workbook, or even just see what each different like viz is doing. So yeah, that was really meant to be more of like an inspirational type of visual viz, I would say. I went a bit fast.
No, Crystal, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing and kind of walking us through how you built that. Sorry, I've been trying to answer some of the remaining Q&A questions, but if anybody has a question for Crystal, feel free to show it out or like shout it out on the Q&A, and we can see if Crystal can answer it. It does look like there is a question, really neat visual. Is there a reason why you didn't include a key to identify what each color represents?
So no, ideally I would have put it in my tooltip actually. But I didn't do that. So no, that's my error. But yeah, I would put it in the tooltip up on this Where in the World viz. Just so it doesn't clutter the workbook or anything. And this is sort of like almost my starting point. And that's why I would put it on that Where in the World timeline.
Yeah.
Because that's my starting point, and that's sort of like my jumping off to go to any other part of the visual.
Yeah. No,
So.
that's smart. You know, and what does John always say? He says like there's nothing that he's built in the past that he couldn't go back and improve upon, right? So like
Exactly.
always gonna say like, oh well, I could have done this better, or could have done this differently or something. So I think that's fantastic. There is another question about how did you export the data from Google Maps?
So they hide it a little bit. So you have to go to your maps and then you go to like your personal settings. It's a very like lengthy process as far as like getting to that point.
Sure.
They have two different points that look like it's exporting your data. One is like actually exporting all of your literal data from your Google account. The other is just pulling it from Maps. And basically, if you look at your timeline on Maps on your computer, like not on your phone, you can go into like the bottom right corner and there's an option to export your data in like the settings wheel cog. And then you can export like each day at a time. So that's the one downfall is you can't do like a whole month necessarily, or you can, but it's going to be more of a process because you have to export each day as it comes. Whereas you can't just like select a date range that is like beginning of January, 10th of January.
So vacation.
Yeah. So they make it a little bit difficult, but it's been like my favorite way to actually track my vacations because Google tracks a lot of things. It's harder abroad because if you don't have like the Wi-Fi connection or if you don't have data enabled, like I was on like the airport mode the whole time or airplane mode. So I actually went in France and it didn't capture those because I didn't connect to Wi-Fi at all while I was in France.
Right.
But it's a really cool way, like especially in the United States. So like I've tracked my vacation to California for like a conference. And they track your time and everything too, which you might not realize, but you like have a good idea of like how much time you spent like literally at the conference or like at a dinner after the conference, stuff like that. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Do you fudge the data at all so that your boss thinks that you're at the conference more than you're at dinner?
Don't tell John. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sure. So another quick question is that somebody was asking if it's possible for you to show the raw data from maps and the key fields that you used. I don't know whether I understand that you may not be prepared to like answer that, but
Like this?
well, yeah. So this is the data after you've gotten the data from, you get the data from Google Maps one day at a time, and
Mhm.
you obviously did some cleansing of that in Alteryx, and then this is what you brought into Tableau.
Yeah. So are we referring to the Alteryx workflow then?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. I read the question.
Oh, yeah.
So not 100% sure on that. Sorry.
So yeah, this is like my raw data essentially
Yeah.
coming in. I did do a little bit of manipulation because the location and description come in one field, and the date and like the end date and start date come in one field. So these all, I think it's these 4 all come in one, or 5. Sorry, I can't count. These 5 all come in one field, and then they're like delimited by words. So
Gotcha.
what I did was basically replace those words because it was the same every time. So it was like from this time to this time.
Right.
So I did a replace for the from and the to of like a pipe delimiter, because that's not a common like grammatical like use.
Yeah.
Because a comma, you might have commas naturally in a sentence.
Right.
So pipe delimited on those words to then get those into 2 separate columns. And then distance, again, that was just like a common grammatical word. So I did a replace on that as well to sort of parse that out.
Yeah. No, that's all really good information. And I think, you know, obviously it seems like there's a lot of interest in kind of some of these data prep capabilities. And I think just spitballing here, I think maybe at one of our future meetings, we'll do a demo of Tableau prep or something like that. Or walk through, you know, in certain situations like this, when you get data out, you know, what are some steps that you might need to take to clean it up? So really great questions. One other question was from, if you export data from 2 phones, what's the best way to merge that data? Any thoughts there? I know you're packing 2 phones, Crystal.
I used to, not anymore. But with 2 phones. So I would export it to the same location, being that same laptop.
Yeah.
And then I would actually just join the 2 data sources together.
Yeah.
Because again, like theoretically, again, you're pulling the same day, but from 2 different sources. It's just like pulling 2 different days of data.
Mm-hmm.
So just join them together would be my best like recommendation, because the Google formatted data is going to come out the same each time. Now, one case that you would have to be concerned about is if you were exporting from 2 different data sources from 2 different phones, because then you would have to take into account, well, do you have correct fields to join on? Like say this one has an ID, but this one doesn't, you would need to build in an ID that matches that first data source. But since theoretically in this case, we're both using from Google Maps, the data sources are exactly the same because it's coming from the same data source. So you would just join them together.
Right.
Or you could just like essentially do a union and append them to the same file.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think too, I mean, I guess I don't really know, I'm not familiar with the process that you're speaking about exporting data from Google Maps, but in my experience, like I could have 2 different phones, and if I'm logged into Google with my personal Gmail account on both, when you go to export the data, it could already have kind of gotten the pings from both of the different phones. But again, I'm not really familiar with the export process.
No, it should. So like, again, with Google, as long as you're using that same Google account on both phones, it should pull it all together.
Yeah, they make it really easy.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Fantastic. All right, great. Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this visualization and put something together for us. This is really cool.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, so let's see. I'm going to throw our presentation back up there. And the next thing that we just want to talk about, to Crystal's point, she showed us her visualization that she pushed to Tableau Public, and a lot of you have actually talked about the fact that you use Tableau Public. Tableau Public's really awesome for people who want to learn and play around. This is something free that you can install on your personal computer at home. You know, there are limitations in terms of the data sources, so you can't connect to like enterprise data sources like a SQL Server or something like that, but you can connect to Excel or Microsoft Access or text files. And then you can like build a visualization. It's just the same, all the same features as Tableau Desktop. But then when you want to save it, you need to save it to something called Tableau Public. And Tableau Public kind of makes it available publicly. So it's really used a lot, you know, by people who want to build and share and kind of show off their skills. It's pretty awesome. One of the things that we wanted to do in advance of some of our upcoming Viz competitions is if you have a Tableau Public profile, we would love for you to kind of tag one of your visualizations with this hashtag that we're using everywhere, WITUG, so we can see your fantastic work. So what you do is if you have a Tableau Public profile, you can go to public.tableau.com. You'll need to sign in, and then you can pick your favorite visualization. You want to like kind of open it up, and then at the bottom of your visualization, once it loads, there's like information about it. And you can edit the details, and then just anywhere in the description box, put in WITUG, and then I should be able to kind of like query and do a search for that hashtag and get back all of your wonderful visualizations. So I kind of want to use them in a bit of an art project. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to help me out here. So it only takes a few minutes and you can actually do it right in the browser. You don't have to like download and republish. So hopefully you all do that. And I'll be following up with a friendly reminder. So definitely help me out. Is the licensing the same for Tableau Public? There is no cost for Tableau Public. It's all free. I think the one thing there is just, again, that you are limited in terms of what data you can connect to and the fact that you have to share it out on Tableau Public. One thing to note though, just in my experience with Tableau Public, I use it a little bit, not a ton, but you can hide visualizations from the public. So like you can publish it out to your like account, but then you can also, when you can go into the account and say like, don't show this. But then really you're the only one that can see it. And you have to like log in order to see it. So, but it is free. It is something you have to download though too. So, but super cool. All right. I think no other questions on Tableau Public. So I'm going to jump right into our next presenter, who is Alex. Alex is with Storytelling with Data. Her title is super cool. She's a data storyteller. And Alex is going to talk about this Storytelling with Data community that her organization is working on. It. I think it's new, but I'll let Alex kind of speak to that. So take it away, Alex. I'm going to stop sharing so you can share anything that you have.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So hopefully everyone can see my screen, see PowerPoint.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and my background is actually solely in the data world. So I've worked in a variety of different quantitative roles where I quickly learned that to be successful, I had to invest not only in my technical skills, but also my non-technical skills. And it's funny because I learned this the hard way and in a space completely unrelated to data. So years ago, I got this brilliant idea that I wanted to become a dance fitness instructor. And at that time in my life, I was definitely confident. I was hitting the gym a ton, so I was in shape. Also somebody who's been blessed with a little bit of rhythm. So all of the technical skills for me to be good at this were there, but I wasn't. And I really had to learn the hard way to think about my audience's wants and needs by using music that they were familiar with and liked and moves that were really quite simple. Now, the good news for me is that this lesson didn't just serve me in my very short-lived dance fitness career. when I brought this audience perspective into my analytical work, I started to go from graphs like this, which were overwhelming and not very easy to use, to graphs like this that were much simpler and more concise. But more importantly, they were designed with my audience's wants and needs in mind. So it was pretty surprising to learn that communicating with data effectively was actually pretty simple and something that anyone in any space can not only learn, but benefit from. So now I spend my time as a data storyteller with an organization called Storytelling with Data, where we help people and organizations learn to make graphs that make sense and drive action. And we do this through a number of different resources, one of them being our workshops. So we offer custom client workshops as well as public workshops. So this year stateside, we'll have 4 public events, with one of them actually being right near you. So on Thursday, May 7th, we'll actually be in Milwaukee at the Harley-Davidson Center. And this is going to be a very special event because the entire Storytelling with Data team is going to be in attendance. So if you want to start honing those data viz skills and potentially meet me in person, this is definitely going to be your chance to do so. But you don't have to wait until May to start honing those skills. You could also join our brand new and very exciting Storytelling with Data community. So this is an online resource that you can join, and it's a place that you can go to practice creating graphs or implement new techniques in a low risk and safe environment. You can also help others learn by lending your feedback and support to them or requesting feedback on some of your own work. It's very easy to also connect with other members who are on a similar learning journey as you. But you can also go to the Storytelling with Data community to just seek some inspiration. So there's a place where members can upload work that they're proud of, and so you can start to go through the gallery and discover great work. So you can join us by logging on to community.storytellingwithdata.com and signing up to be a member. And the best part is that it is completely free to join. So the community and the workshops are just a few of our very many resources. We have plenty of other resources like our online webinars. We have 2 books as well as our podcast. And you can learn all about these by going onto our main webpage, which is storytellingwithdata.com. So I hope you join me in continuing to hone those data viz skills in the community, as well as meeting me in person in Milwaukee. I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Alex, for doing that and presenting about the exciting stuff that you're working on. I think the Milwaukee Tableau user group last year had Cole come and speak to us, and the content that you guys all cover is just phenomenal. It's made a huge difference. One of the things that I do love about it is that it is tool agnostic. So you can take those concepts and you can apply it in any scenario. So it's pretty great. Are there any questions for Alex or anybody in the Milwaukee area who is going to go to this workshop at the Harley-Davidson Museum May 7th? Or maybe you want to travel out to Seattle or something, or Washington, and go to something else. But real quick, somebody asked, were you into Zumba?
Yes, Zumba was one of the many dance fitness classes I taught.
That's very cool. That's awesome. And now you're not based in Wisconsin, are you?
No, I'm actually right outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. You guys have a pretty wide reach, so that's fantastic. Let me just see real quick. So how do you get tickets for that Harley event? Or maybe it's possible if you have a link, you can potentially share it in the chat window. But I don't know, can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things. I'll go ahead and share the direct link as well as that resource page. I'll share it with you, Brandy, and you can distribute it out to others. Fantastic. But if you log on to our website, storytellingwithdata.com, there will be a place where you can go to for the public workshops and you can start registering.
Cool. Awesome. And so I assume that pricing information is out on that website as well?
Absolutely. Don't quote me on it, but I think it's about $1,000 per participant. And that's all inclusive, the full day food, social event, as well as maybe a little gift in there that I won't spoil.
Gotcha. Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to join us today and to share some of the awesome stuff you're working on.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back into my presentation and we're just going to finish with our wrap up today. Sorry, real quick question, Alex, if you're still on the phone. Just wondering whether there are any opportunities for education people to attend at a reduced cost.
Yes, so definitely if you go on the website, there should either be information there or you can go ahead and fill out a form on the website for, it'll be like a contact form for inquiry, and we can go from there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So again, we're just going to wrap up our fantastic meeting today with some free stuff. So if you have tweeted, and I'm going to speak to the slide pretty slowly, and actually Patrick is going to jump in here in a second, but you still have time to tweet in order to be entered to win. But I'm going to throw it over to Patrick to announce the winners.
Well done, Brandy. That was awesome. So yeah, you're gonna have to, I don't talk quite as fast slowly, so you're gonna have to jump out there and tweet really fast. But yeah, we're pleased to give away 3 $75 gift certificates to the new Tableau online swag store. We will send emails to the winners with details. Yeah, we want to encourage your participation and reward it and get some fun Tableau swag out of the deal as well. Sarah, who are the lucky winners today?
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, we have 3 lucky winners today. The first one is Colleen Hayes. So Colleen, if you're still on, if you could just make a comment in the chat window and we'll get your information. The next winner is Janine Rasmussen. So congratulations, Janine. And our last and final winner is Daniel Nestline. So congratulations to you, Daniel.
Awesome. So if, yeah, you guys can chat your email address to us, we'll get the details out to you and you can redeem it. All right, last slide, Brandy. Okay, so yeah, the user groups are all about engagement, and these are ways that you can engage, and we want to hear from you as well on what you would like to see in future events, as well as what you thought about today's content. So the virtual user groups are available from the Splash Hub pages from each, both Madison and Milwaukee. So the events URL there, go out to those URLs and bookmark them and register for the events that are already out there for the upcoming year. Lots of good stuff. LinkedIn is another great way to connect and get to know other people in the local Tableau community. There is both the Madison and Milwaukee LinkedIn groups that you can join in and start a conversation. The Madison Tableau user group has a Twitter account. We would love for you to jump out there and follow our Twitter account, and you can DM us through that platform as well. Or you can reach out to the Milwaukee user group through their email address. And so yeah, love to hear from you. And thanks for joining us today. A fabulous day. Thanks to all the panelists and speakers for providing the content. And that's a wrap for today. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks everybody so much. And I did just paste those links into the chat window. So if you really can't wait to join, they're there. But yes,
Nice job.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.